Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. If you ask people what are their biggest concerns about our town, they'll most likely say affordability. Yes, living in Nashville is more expensive. That seems to be the case in other parts of the country as well. And I've said time and again that the rent is too damned high. So how are people supposed to make ends meet? For many, that means picking up a side hustle. What is a side hustle? Well, it's another job or business venture where folks can earn some extra cash. You know, on the side. Later this hour, we'll talk with Nashvillians who took on side hustles of their own and discover what they're doing to make it. But first, 2 years ago today, the Taliban entered Kabul and swiftly took power as NATO forces withdrew from Afghanistan. They began targeting people with connections to the United States, including Afghan Fulbright scholars. Now, here in Nashville, a local agency has been trying to help. Rose Gilbert is WPLN's general assignment reporter. She joins us now to talk about it. Rose, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here, Khalil.
All right, so, tell me a little bit about this story. There's a local group helping Fulbright scholars in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so Tennessee Resettlement Aid is a name that might be familiar to some of our listeners. One of its co-founders, Salim Tahiri, has been on multiple times as a guest and as a translator. He himself is actually a refugee who came here with his family about 5 years ago with a special immigrant visa he earned by working with the U.S. in Afghanistan. And kind of since he's been here, he's been helping other folks get settled, helping them get groceries. I mean, you know how hard it is to get groceries in this town without a car?
Yeah.
Helping them, translate everything from signs to asylum application work. And he kind of hooked up with his co-founder, Katie Finn, to do that more comprehensively. And after one of the more recent shows we had them on this spring, kind of an update on resettlement work here in Nashville, we got to talking. And he mentioned kind of the plight of these Fulbrighters who are Afghan citizens who came to study in the U.S., went back to Afghanistan, and found themselves targeted when the Taliban took power. He actually had a client whose brother runs the Fulbright program in Afghanistan, and that's kind of how they became aware and how this very hyper-local small resettlement group ended up taking up this cause and kind of working with over 40 scholars in Afghanistan, nearly 40 scholars in Afghanistan.
I imagine that this information they're working with is pretty sensitive because people's lives potentially could be a danger, yet they connected with you for it. Was it because of this connection we had from you've developed with them from This Is Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, I've it's funny to think about, but I've known Salim for over a year now. We've connected on the show multiple times. He has connected me with guests multiple times, and every time you ask someone to put you in touch with someone who might be in a vulnerable position, like a recently resettled refugee, you're asking them to trust you. And every time you handle that well, handle that kindly, handle that respectfully, you build trust with them. And so I think by the time that we were talking about this story, he knew a little bit about me and knew how I'd handle this, and I knew about him, and I knew how he handled the people he was connected with. So it was a story that came from that trust. What
was reporting on this story like for you?
It was a surprising percentage of it was about managing time zones. Of course, I was connected to the local organization, Katie Finn and Salim Tahiri here in Nashville. That was an easy one. I just went to Katie's house to talk to them. I connected with a California congressman who is introducing a bill to help these scholars, or has introduced. But connecting with the scholars themselves who were in Pakistan and Afghanistan was a little bit trickier. Afghanistan's 9.5 hours later than we are. It's evening there right now. So figuring out a time when they were free and when they felt safe talking, because a lot of them wanted to talk in the middle of the night or early in the morning when they had fewer concerns about being overheard. So a lot of time spent on my closet floor in the middle of the night.
Okay. Okay. Now, I understand we have a clip that we want to hear from somebody you talked with. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one of the scholars I spoke with, I'm going to call her Hannah, but that's a pseudonym to protect her and her family's safety. I asked her what she wanted people in America to know about herself and other scholars that find themselves in this situation. And this is what she had to say.
I wanted the American people to know that it's not like we are coming from war-torn experience and we know how to deal with it. I have never seen war in my life. I've never seen being confined to my home ever before. So for me, it's just like experiencing it as if any other American would have. So, some people think that we are used to war, we are used to violence, it's not like that. We are terrified by this experience.
She's like commenting on the misconceptions that we have as Americans that we hold about life in Afghanistan before the Taliban retook the country. She says that they are not used to war and violence. That's pretty revelatory. How is your own perspective affected by working on this story and talking with Hannah and other people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a reminder of how far away we are from things that we have a major impact on, right? Like, Hannah has to think about America a lot more than we have to think about her or about Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Just her reminding me, or reminding all of us really, like, Afghanistan's not just a place where bad things happen. And so when bad things happen there, it's like, of course, that's where bad things happen, is over there and far away from us. But reminding, I think it was very important to her that I understood that this was as scary for her as it would be for me if I was suddenly forced to go into hiding to protect myself and my family. And so that really stuck with me.
What type of impact do you want to see from this story?
Well, I think certainly the folks I spoke to really were focused on raising awareness of their situations and just reminding people that, it's been 2 years since NATO forces left Afghanistan, but there are still a lot of people who were impacted by our time there who are struggling.
What about you, Rose Gilbert, the person?
Every time I've done a story, especially working with folks who are in a perilous situation or with refugees, I'm always very humbled that people are willing to risk their lives to share their stories. So, Hannah and 3 other scholars who spoke with me, a considerable personal risk. I hope that this story sheds light on the situations that they were, willing to risk their lives to talk about.
Rose Gilbert is WPLN's General Assignment Reporter. You can hear her story this afternoon on All Things Considered and find the link on this episode's web post at thisisnashville.org. Rose, great job. Thanks for being here, and thank you for your reporting.
Thank you.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll switch gears and learn about the side hustle culture of our city. What are people doing for extra cash? Do you have a side hustle? Tell us about it and tweet us at thisisnashville. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. What do you do when you need more cash? Do you get another job? Back in the day, that was known as moonlighting, where you work full-time but hold a part-time job as well. Now that term is known as the side hustle. These days, many folks who have a side hustle work for themselves, taking a hobby or passion and finding ways to monetize their already existing skills and talents. Others work the gig economy, i.e. Uber or DoorDash. Some even get a bit more explicit. OnlyFans, anyone? As the cost of living increases, more and more Middle Tennesseans are taking up the practice. And when folks think side hustling in a town like Nashville, the first thing they think of is a musician. So I'd like to introduce Jakob Wilkomm from Woodbine to the show. Jakob, thanks for being here. Welcome to This Is Nashville, my friend.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Really great. So how long have you lived here?
Just coming up on over 3 years now in Nashville.
3 years in Nashville. Okay, so what'd you come to Nashville to do?
I came here to be, like everyone else, I want to be a musician. Specifically, I wanted to be a bass musician for other artists to help them elevate their songs and performances to the next level.
Okay, so did you want to be like a studio musician or somebody who does gigs as well?
I was just happy for any opportunity to play music. I love playing live. Studio work is fantastic as well. But I was just looking for any opportunity to break into the Nashville music scene.
Why not be the front man? Why not be like, you're up here, you got the bass. Jake has got Jake and the bass in your face. Well, why not be your own guy?
For every Taylor Swift, there's about 10 other guys on stage helping Taylor be Taylor.
Mm-hmm. All right, so tell me, what was the plan when you moved here?
You know what? I wish I had a better plan. I wanted to move to Nashville. I was ready to meet a whole bunch of people, get myself rooted in the community and start gigging. And then about a week later, pandemic set in. And so I was in a lease with two guys that I met off of Facebook, and we were in lockdown together, and I felt really defeated because I felt like the world was shutting down on me, and I thought that my dreams were going to be crushed and I was going to move back to Wisconsin.
Okay, so everything, COVID shut down, interrupted your dreams, didn't shut them down completely, but interrupted them. And we know that life is hard for an aspiring musician in this city. Tell me, what was the first side hustle you took up during this time?
The first side hustle that I did, and my roommates put me onto this, was dog sitting. You would be amazed at the amount of money people will pay to take care of their little fur babies when they're vacationing for a weekend. These are people that love their animals. They have the disposable income to not only take a vacation, but also support these animals, and they want to hire the best possible care. And I really enjoy working with animals, and it was a fantastic side hustle to kind of make ends meet for those first couple months.
Okay, so you had that side hustle going. Did you pick up any other ones?
I sure did. My roommates had an established audio and video company, and they always needed an extra set of hands on set, another cameraman, a guy to check the audio. And so very quickly, I got a fast education in the audio and video world, which I've now turned into a job where I work as an audio engineer at a church on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
So that's part of my current side hustle.
Okay, so are you still dog sitting?
I'm not dog sitting as much as I did back then, but I do have a couple clients that call me about once or twice a month to take care of them.
So right now I'm counting 3 side hustles.
Correct.
Do you have more?
Let's see. I freelance German translate. I got my degree in German translation.
Awesome.
And I got a contracted job at a pharmaceutical company right afterward. I quickly found out that the office, cubicle, suit and tie, North Chicago life wasn't for me. But it's still a skill set that I have in my head and I really enjoy doing. So when I have the time, I can freelance German translate on my own time.
That is a pretty eclectic group of side hustles. I love it. Now, they can be very diverse, as you just heard, everyone, and they show off an array of skills and abilities. My next guest is a multi-skilled performer. You may have seen him in action. Here he is playing Punk number 3 in the 1994 movie The Specialist. You'll hear him fighting with Sylvester Stallone's character, Ray Quick. Oh, man, it takes me back to when I saw the movie back then. Jeff Bornstein is a stuntman, magician, and special effects expert. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so you worked as a stuntman. That's really cool.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been doing stunts?
Well, I am now retired from stunts, but one never retires from stunts. Stunts retires you.
Okay.
Yes. So, blown out knees, broken back, too many concussions. So if I forget my name, just don't call me Kathy.
Okay. When did you get started?
10 years old in both. I've only had 2 careers, magician and stuntman.
10 years old? How?
Well, as I was, Jacob and I were talking out in the green room-ish earlier. I got into magic when I was 10 years old because I was bullied as a kid. I figured if I could show the bullies a trick, they'd leave me alone, and it pretty much worked. And then with the stunts, friends, we would Well, I've got a very cool backstory on top of a backstory. When I was 10 years old, my dad taught me how to ride motorcycles and then race motorcycles. We'd go out to a motorcycle park called Indian Dunes in California. And there all the celebrities, Steve McQueen, big name, right? And a lot of second unit directors and directors would bring their sons who were my age and they would race motorcycles. So here I am racing motorcycles with the sons of these big iconic people. And my dad's being a white collar worker, never in the industry. All these guys are getting nepotized, if you will.
Yeah.
And then we just hang out with all the kids would hang out, and we start doing stunt shows, little fights and stuff like that on the weekends. And then the Magic, I'd do the same thing, and had my very first paid gig at 13 years old. And that's kind of how it blossomed.
So you've been side hustling since you were a teenager.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, you're involved in the entertainment business, but getting booked, even for stunt people, performers, booked for movies and television, it's difficult. It deals with a lot of rejection, a lot of waiting for the next gig. So would you switch back and forth? If stunt work was dry, you were hitting the magician world?
So from 10 to 19, 13 to 19. 13, I had my first paid gig. 13 to 19, I was doing all magic, private parties, that kind of a thing. At 19, I went in the Army. When I got out of the Army, I got in the motion picture business. And only because of all my friends who now have excelled as stuntmen and stunt performers and actors, whatever they were doing, I figured, well, I want to do that. So magician by night, playing the nightclubs. And when I couldn't get a magician gig, I'd be a bouncer in a strip club, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then wake up 7 a.m., go hit the ground running, walking on set. And when you were able to walk on the set, and the stunt coordinator, second unit director, my pick and res and that kind of a thing. And it just kind of kept going from there.
Were you working 7 days a week?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, when we weren't hustling, we were practicing our craft, practicing fight scenes, go out and rent a car, practice throwing 180s, 90s, practicing high falls. We had a high fall tower and everything, airbag.
That's dangerous work. I'm wondering, side hustles are notorious for not providing health insurance. How'd you...
I'm a vet, so 100%.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm blessed in that area.
I hear that. Yeah. I hear that. Now, if you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about the side hustle culture of our city with musician Jakob Wilkomm and stuntman Jeff Bornstein. You can tweet us your comments at This Is Nashville. I feel like, having a side hustle is that something that comes with trying to break into the entertainment industry, almost like a rite of passage for folks. Here is Jack Settle, who is a local aspiring country musician with a lot of side hustles. Our producer, Elizabeth Burton, she caught up with him earlier in this week. Let's listen.
When I was 17, I actually had this crazy thing happen where I woke up with no hearing in my right ear, and it was due to a virus, and I got some hearing back. And it was kind of a learning process of learning to sing again. After that process, I kind of realized, everybody's going to get old and lose their hearing. And I kind of had a moment of realization where I'm like, I'm young. I was 17 at the time. And I was like, I might as well, if I'm ever going to pursue music, like seriously, I might as well just do it now. And so I graduated high school and moved to Nashville.
Out in Oklahoma, I went looking for a new aroma. I can't take any more of this. I gotta go find another miss. I'm interstate.
For me, what it really looks like is keeping that dream and that goal at the forefront. I do kind of a lot of different things. I have side hustles, W-2 jobs, and still kind of trying to keep that dream, that goal in mind the whole time. That I work at a large format print shop, so I make signs and banners, I run machines, and that's my full-time job at the moment.
So I ended up in Tennessee, working at a factory. The dust and smoke made my throat burn, so I went and gave that key a turn.
Photography has been a thing for me for a long time that I love doing. When I was like 13, I won an international nature photography competition. I joke to everyone, I'm like, I peaked in 8th grade. And then most recently, I started pressure washing and cleaning concrete, which is super random. I got to be honest, I saw like a thing on TikTok. I kind of fell for it. They were like, if you clean garbage bins and you do this many a day, and I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to go buy a pressure. Those posts are probably sponsored by some pressure washing, brand or whatever. But, if I kind of realized, like, man, if I do one or two of these jobs, I can make several days pay in a few hours. So that frees me up to focus on music more. If I'm able to make that money, then it's tricky because I've gotten a few raises at my job, but I'm probably just at the same exact place that I was because everything's so much more expensive. And it kind of creeps up on you, like it's a slow thing, like gas prices and grocery prices, and you don't realize it until you look back and you're like, wow, like I'm paying like 2 or 3 times as much for groceries as I was like when I first moved here. So I am grateful to get to be, pursuing something in addition to the basic needs.
Now, Jacob, I hear that you and Jack are roommates, right?
That's right. Our driveway has never looked cleaner.
You're a musician as well. Does anything that he said really resonate with you?
100%. I think he speaks for a lot of musicians in Nashville. Obviously, music's the dream, but it's really hard to make money, especially as an independent artist or when you're first trying to get your foot in the door. And so you'd be surprised how creative people can get to make ends meet, to afford yourself another month in Nashville and another month to really give your music a shot.
Man, living month to month while pursuing this dream, it's got to be daunting.
It's daunting and it's certainly motivating, especially when the end of the month is coming up and rent is due and you know that you have to somehow find a couple gigs to really make ends meet. But I think whenever you look at different actors or musicians, they always talk about this time period when they were waiting tables in New York or they were auditioning and not getting anything and waiting for that big break. I think a lot of musicians are sitting in that current season, and I think if you just keep at it, you're going to have a really good story to tell your grandkids one day.
It really brings new meaning to the Bones, Thugs, and Harmony song, The First of the Month. It really does give a different perspective to it. Now, on social media, side hustles, they're portrayed as like part of the entrepreneurial path. And a lot of people are doing this work because they have these larger, grander goals in mind. Is that really the case with you?
I think when it comes to side hustle, your why has to be so motivating to get you to that next level. And I know my why. My why is I want to be in the music industry. I want to make this a reality for myself. And I know that sometimes it takes the work of a side hustle to make that happen. But I think if your why is strong enough, I think there's no limit to what you can achieve. And I think that's the driving force behind a lot of side hustles.
What do you think people misunderstand about side hustles?
It's not a real job, man. Get a real job. I think people really discredit the work of side hustles because it is a hustle. And I think a lot of people discredit the work because it's not a 9-to-5. You don't have health insurance. You don't have benefits. You don't have PTO. But I think it's the scrappiest way to bootstrap yourself, to bet on yourself.
Yeah. I always was kind of amazed by that term, real job. It's like I'm earning real money for doing real work. How is it not a real job? Like, Jeff, how do you respond to that?
Oh, I've got a plethora of ways to respond. If I had a Canadian penny for every time someone said, get a real job, man, it's like really, see, and I piggyback off what you said, Jacob. This has to be your passion. And if it's not your passion and the why, then forget it. I know a lot of people that want to, and the dreamers. And, if you can't take the heat, man, get out, man. And I've been homeless. I've lived in my car. I've lived in backyards. And I will never regret what I did to get to where I am today. Not for a second.
Are there benefits outside of the financial gain that you can get for being inside hustle culture? Where are the benefits for it, other than money?
In here, I believe, and I'm pointing to my heart. My mom always said to me, sweetheart, if you're digging ditches and that's what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that is so true, man. If you love what you do, I don't care if you play bass, you pull a penny out of little Johnny's ear, you get shoved to the ground, or if you're cleaning trash cans, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life, man. And it's all about, and it is a mindset also. I just had a family member say to me recently, because we moved from LA to here to Tennessee about 2.5 years ago, a little bit behind you, Jacob. And I said, man, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Like everyone in the pandemic, our calendar is wiped clean. I'm like, what are we going to do? I had no idea. Fast forward, I said, what am I going to do? And I'm talking to this family member, and he said, you need to get a real job. Man, you're never going to make it. I'm like, dude, I'm 60. I'm 63 now. I'm 60. What do you mean I'm never going to? I'm doing something right. He goes, get a real job. I'm like, all right, man, and you go back to your little thing that you do, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked to him since. And that's a family member. I can't let people dictate what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do when it comes to that, because people don't understand what an artist goes through and what it takes. You know, as an artist, we all know what it takes. And that's my story.
Jacob, you're a little bit younger, and so your generation looks at side hustles, like I was saying, through social media as something that's kind of a badge of honor. If you don't have side hustles, you're kind of regarded as lazy in certain circles, I feel like.
There is a strange entrepreneurial spirit with kind of my generation, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's because maybe it's because it's so accessible with our phones and what we have access to. I mean, people are flipping things on Facebook Marketplace. People are making connections, and so there is an element of, if you're not where you want to be in life, you got to change something. You have to elevate what you're doing to make that happen, because nothing changes if nothing changes. So there is an element of just hustle, and there's a toxic side of that too. There's the grind bros. Have you heard of them? They're just all day, wake up at 5 a.m., cold plunge, shower, trade crypto, hustle, like stack your money as much as you can. And I think that goes a little off the deep end, but I think we're young kids. We've got time, we got skills on our hands, and let's put it to work.
So what benefits have you received from side hustles outside of just making more money to make it and live in town?
I think it makes me a more well-rounded person when you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I think the people that I'm interested in have a variety of different interests, and they do different things, and they're good at different things. And I think when you narrow yourself down to just a specific skill set, I think that kind of gets lost, as opposed to someone who's a little more well-rounded, someone who can talk to different people and take care of a dog and run a soundboard and play a Broadway gig and then translate this piece of German. I think the more well-rounded you make yourself, the more you're setting yourself up for success in the future.
The futurist Alvin Toffler, he wrote a book called Future Shock, but then he wrote a later book called Generational Wealth, and he talked about what employment would be like today, where young people like yourself, the employment is about you and the skills, not the fact that you can work at a job and eventually get the pension and the gold watch later on. And I'm seeing your generation kind of do these things, but how do you kind of reconcile that while you are making money and you're still paying rent to be in Nashville at the moment, you're being empowered and broadened by these experiences, picking up these other skills, that the big break may never come?
That is a very real reality, and I'm braced for that possibility, but I know that I gave myself a chance, and I know that if I didn't do this with my life at this time period, I know that if I didn't at least try it, it would lead to regret later on and resentment for what. So I'm glad I knew what I did instead of what could have been. And I know that I'm giving it my best shot, and it might not work out, and that's fine, but I'm so thankful that I at least tried.
You're not going to ask yourself, what if, at the end of it all?
Like I said, I'll have some good stories for the grandkids.
I want to thank my guest, Jakob Wilkomm, who is a local musician from Woodbine and a master of the side hustle. Jacob, thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And Jeff Bornstein will stick with us through the break. When we come back, we'll meet people who are outside of the hustle. Well, let's just say this. They side hustle more than just for necessity. They do it for curiosity. And other people who like to side hustle for fun. Thinking about a side hustle? You need some advice? Well, tweet us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Colonna, and this is Nashville. Now more than ever, people are having a hard time making the ends meet. Costs have gone up, but wages are pretty far behind. Today, we've been discovering what the side hustle culture is like in our city. Before the break, we talked with two people in the entertainment industry about the side hustles they're a part of. Now let's meet some folks who side hustle for a variety of reasons. Micah Puncochar is the co-owner of Compost Nashville. He's joined by Lara Parker, a restaurant manager, and Kimberly Bornstein, who works as a magician and is married to Jeff Bornstein. Thanks to you all for being here. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so we know that some of your main sources of income are coming from, but I really want to learn about the side hustles that you all are a part of. Lara, what is your side hustle?
Hi. I read tarot and I am a birth doula.
Okay, reading tarot and a birth doula are definitely unique side hustles. Why did you decide to engage in those?
I'm a COVID reader. During COVID, I was an essential worker, but my hours were cut, and I was just picking up hobbies, and I picked this up, and it stuck, and I love it.
What is it about being a doula that really drove you to that?
Education and helping people with the birth experience.
Well, how much time does it take up, these side hustles? How do you fit these into your life? Because you work in full time as a restaurant manager, and having experience in the restaurants is, those can be 10-hour days.
Yeah, every day is a 10-hour day, 5 days a week for me. As far as the tarot reading goes, luckily I, up until this point, have had plenty of time to educate myself in that realm, and now I can bang out a quick little session in 20 or 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. What about your doula work?
Doula work is an ongoing educational thing. I took a training course about a year and a half ago, and I continue to build on that through reading materials, podcasts, being involved with the Nashville Birth Network itself.
Now, Micah, co-owner of Compost Nashville, what's your side hustle?
My side hustle, or as I call it, the SSH, the seasonal side hustle, is making and delivering raised garden beds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how'd you get into that?
Years and years ago, I owned a landscaping business and built those for some clients. So I knew where to source the materials, knew how to do it, knew how to build them well. And then when COVID happened and the lockdown and the schools shut down and everything sort of all of a sudden happened all at once, my role in Compost Nashville is to work with our commercial clients. And so instead of bringing commercial clients on board, I spent most of my time pausing people's accounts and sometimes canceling accounts entirely. So it was one of these, okay, what do I do with extra time? And also as a way to supplement the revenue that I was going to lose from those accounts. Mm-hmm. And thankfully on the business side of things, where the commercial side dropped, the residential side went way up because more people were at home cooking, gardening. And it was one of those just, hey, what can I do? It was one of these where I like doing it and I like facilitating people's entry into gardening. Just as a side hobby, I love when people can get into that. So it was one of those, let's do it. And I even taught my nephews and niece in Franklin how to do it. And they sort of took the Franklin Brentwood market and worked there, networks. And, I did mine in East Nashville and around town. And yeah, so that's the origin story.
So it was kind of almost a happy accident, perfect situation where you're getting fulfillment from doing this work, but also you're able to make up for some of lost income.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great marriage of many things.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kimberly, is being a magician your side hustle?
Well, this is what I do. I met my husband, Jeff. We've been together now for 17 years. We dated
6,205 days.
Okay.
Long time. How did you know that? We met on Match.com. We dated 2 years. I originally am from Oklahoma. I moved out to LA. We lived there together for at least, I want to say 15 years. He was always coming home. He would get frustrated. He'd go on the road and stuff because he's done magic all of his life since I've known him. And I said, we should do a show together. And it was kind of one of those things when we met, because we actually did meet on Match.com long ago when that was kind of a thing. And being from Oklahoma and him from California, it was just kind of like we just had so many things that just kind of, it was almost like we were like the twin flames. And so after that, he says, you're not going to like it. You're not going to like to go on stage and see how hard it is. So we did it. We went to the Magic Castle in Hollywood, perform, because we've been a member there for over 30 plus years. And the rest is history. We go on tour, and since he is a veteran, we would perform for all branches of service across the country. And it was just an amazing journey that we still do to this day.
Can you explain your act to us? Like, what do you and Jeff do on stage?
Well, do you want me to explain it, or do you want to?
I want to hear you. And then
you want my version? Okay.
Minute.
It's almost kind of like, it's like whenever you meet somebody, it's kind of like when you have that connection. It's like an energy that they almost admit. And it's just trying to visualize in my mind, because I'm very visual. It's like connecting on a different level, using your thoughts, your intuition. And it's things that pop into my head. I'm not always 100%, but it may not mean anything to you, but it may mean something to you. It's in the moment.
Mm-hmm. So I can elaborate on that.
Okay.
So everyone has some sort of psychic ability. Everybody in this room, everyone in this studio, in this building, in this world, and I can prove it. You've been thinking about your friend. Well, give me a friend's name. Any friend. Flo. You've been thinking about Flo. 5 minutes later, your phone rings and Flo's name pops up on your caller ID. I'm like, I'm just thinking about Flo. We call it psychic ties.
Or it could be like romance in the mind.
Romance in the mind, right?
So you all play with psychic ties.
Yes.
And explain that. I'm really interested to see more about that later on in the show. If you guys will please give us a demonstration. Sure. But right now we got a tweet at This Is Nashville from Breezy Noel Jam, who says, quote, side hustles. I've been working at racetracks for decades now. The money is the hours are long, but I'm sure I met lots of interesting people and saw plenty of great racing for free. So what about that part of it? Like meeting interesting people that you may not have otherwise. Lara, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I read tarot for a fairly large group on Facebook, and it was in that group on one of our weekend events where we offer free reads for the members, where I met someone here in Nashville who was also looking for a doula. And it is so amazing to now see that her child is almost 1 year old, and just being able to have been connected in that way and now being able to see her child grow. It's amazing.
What about you, Micah? What type of connections have you been able to build?
For me, one of the things I love is when I make these garden beds and then I drive around and deliver them, and so I'm all of a sudden in someone's backyard, and I'm meeting sometimes their whole family, their kids, and the kids will tell me the things that they've had success in growing before, or they always note the failures, of course, of what mom has tried before. But it's, to me personally, I love connecting with folks. And when I think the previous guest, Jacob, mentioned this before, where you expose yourself to different types of folks and different walks of life, different professions, and you connect with people. And I think that especially that first season of doing that, when we were all locked down, it was a way to connect with folks. And I, delivered some raised beds of folks I used to run track with in high school, I hadn't seen in ages. Yeah. And it was a different time. I remember a customer, she touched my tape measure on the job site, and we both freaked out, and we had to wipe it down with a antiseptic wipe. But the point is, and then I delivered a raised bed a year or two later, and we were laughing about that, how things have changed and how intense they were. But it's just amazing to connect with folks. How
can someone with a service-oriented side hustle, how can they help themselves to get more business? Because you're building this stuff for people. What were you doing to let folks know, hey, you want a raised flower bed, I'm your dude?
Mostly social media. just put yourself out there on my personal pages and then some of the neighborhood groups where you have to put, pictures and price, and even like on the marketplace, on the Facebook marketplace where you put your price out there. And that, of course, opens you up to the public. Well, people say, oh, where do you get your wood? I would never pay that much for this. And you have to open yourself up to that. And, you don't spend too much time on that. But that's mostly it. You just promoting yourself. And then I personally try to cap it because it does take a large amount of time and it's physical nature. So I say, okay, each spring, my goal is to make, 64 or 98 raised beds. And then that's it.
Okay.
It's a window of time, and it opens and it closes.
It closes. It can't be there eternally. Well, Jeff and Kimberly, how does having a performative side hustle, how does that change the nature of how you go about getting work?
Like Micah was talking about, it's the hustles within the hustle within the hustle. I mean, right now we're hustling, right? We're sitting here, people can hear us. And whenever we're out and about, people ask what we do, just because I guess maybe the way we carry ourselves. I don't know. I can't explain it. We're after a gig. People come up, ask us, "Are you available for X, Y, and Z?" Whatever. We do a lot of high-end corporate events as well as private events. So, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I think a lot of times too, even though we may get that call to get the gig to do the show, are they going to call you back? How well did you do? And that's what I think and I'm sure you can agree with this.
Yeah, anybody can get a gig, but it's getting the call back.
We get the call back. So I think we're doing something right there in all the years that we've been together.
Yeah, I think you guys definitely are getting callbacks. I understand you were just nominated as Magician of the Year in Clarksville, right?
Is that what it was? Best Magician or something like that?
I think it was
I didn't even know about it till I got, my phone started blowing up. I'm like, oh, thanks. I had no idea.
It could lead to more side hustle work.
Exactly.
There we go. Now, Larry, I'm thinking about this and all the work that's involved. We only have 24 hours in the day. Eventually, all of us have to go to sleep. So tell me, how do side hustles take away from other areas of life that you have?
Yeah, it directly correlates with sleep. As soon as I get home, I may do some reading material on the doula work side, or I may give someone a reading that I owe. And it's just, I feel like that's part of it, especially if you have a passion for what you do. And I'm very passionate about both things. So it's just a sacrifice I'm willing to make, because at the end of the day, I love it.
Is there pressure to keep going?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say pressure. It's more of a drive for me. I'm very passionate about how tarot can bring aspects of our lives that we may need to have some attention on, and also very passionate about birth work and education, and that both of those things are very important.
Now, Micah, as we think about our side hustles, they can be so productive. Folks will think about leaving their jobs, When I open up my phone and I see a news feed, I always see such and such person was making $12,000 a month on their side hustle. Eventually, they left their job. It's like these CNBC and money.com ads. Do you think that's realistic? I mean, what should somebody ask themselves if they're faced with that decision potentially, and before they take that next step?
I think they probably need to really sit down and crunch the numbers to see what is possible, and also to think about, if you're going to do this as a side hustle, you probably are keeping your margins low by, for me, I build these raised beds in my driveway, right? Got a saw from Home Depot, and I've got the wood, and I just get it done. But if I were to develop this into a business, then you need space, you need storage, you need all these extra costs. And you have to ask yourself, is the customer going to pay, that extra cost for the service that once was priced low, which may be one of the reasons why people are attracted to your service. You need to think about, are people going to pay that added cost so you can cover that new overhead? But it's a risk, but a lot of people, when they take risks, they almost never regret it, because if it doesn't work out, they learn something along the way.
Do you think people pressure themselves to be over-engaged in their side hustles?
Maybe, but I do think, I think, a lot of costs have risen in the last several years for a lot of folks. And so people are, it's sort of a maybe necessity to be creative. And so I think culturally, we probably do overcommit. I would say that is probably a cultural touchstone of our country, but also produces a lot of amazing things.
As we look at the affordability of Nashville, do you think more and more folks with, the so-called real jobs that we were talking about before, do you think more and more folks are going to have to take up side hustles just to kind of live comfortably or just even live out here?
Yes. And I think that the skills that anybody can bring to if you can add a skill to your skill set, like Jacob's roommate who does the power washing, people want that service and they don't know where to go. And so I think one thing that is important is to lose the ego and do a service that people need and want and that you hopefully have a passion for, or maybe you simply don't mind doing.
Okay. All right. Now, Kimberly and Jeff, you all willing to do a little bit of mentalist magic with us right now?
Sure.
Show us what some of your side hustles are?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We got just about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So take it away.
All right. What do we bring here? We stole a die from one of our grandkids' games. Here. We got a deck of cards.
I thought we were going to call Flo.
Oh, no. I'm sure if I check my phone's on Do Not Disturb, I have to see if Flo calls. If Flo calls, this is going to be something else.
Here, take that.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, we're looking at a pack of cards. We got a little tiny cup with dice in it.
We've got a die. We've got a cup.
That's from our Yahtzee.
Okay.
Micah, I'm going to have both you fellas do this, okay? And here's the deal. Got a little shot glass. Give it a shake. Okay? And peek the number and then hand it over here, okay? And if you get a 5, you give it a shake. Make sure when it lands, it's not a 5. Otherwise, we have a really dumb ending.
Okay.
Okay? And Kim's going to try and tap into what your thoughts are. But when you get that number in your mind, literally send an image of that number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, and Micah,
I'll turn away as well.
I'm going to close my eyes, all right?
All right.
Okay, I'm going to shake the tiny shot glass with the Yahtzee.
I'm imagining mentalist music.
Yeah. You got a number there, Micah? Mm-hmm. Focus on that number.
Okay.
And just keep saying that number over in your mind.
Here we go. Okay.
You both happy with your numbers?
I have my number.
Okay. You can roll it again if you want.
No, I'm happy with my number.
Mike, do you got your number?
Mm-hmm.
Do you got your number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Both of you just clear your mind. Just feel totally relaxed, because the more relaxed both of you feel, the more relaxed I feel. All right, Micah, I'm almost visualizing the number 6. Am I correct when I say that?
You are correct.
Okay, Khalil, focus on your number. Send that energy to me. I'm visualizing a 4.
Yes.
Is it a 4?
Was it a 4?
Yes, it was a 4.
Yes.
Okay.
So she's not only good with numbers, she's good with cards too.
Okay.
Micah, you see the cards okay?
Yep, I see a whole deck of cards.
Okay. Just folks out there in Radio Land, got a deck of 52 playing cards. That was 52 cards. Micah, give them a good little shuffle for me.
Okay.
Now, I'd rather go ahead and this is a deck of cards you could buy at the Dollar General.
Okay.
I'd rather get the credit.
Okay.
The cards are honest. It's the hands that cheat.
Okay.
Okay? So, Micah, I'm going to go like this. Kimberly's going to close her eyes.
They're closed.
Let me get in front of the microphone.
Gentlemen, you can confirm my eyes are closed.
They are closed.
Yes,
We have 1 minute left. Here we go.
I'm going to close
Eyes
my
are closed.
eyes. I'm going to go here first, and then I'm going to go over here.
Okay.
Okay? I'll close my eyes. Say stop anytime you like.
Stop.
Can you see it?
Yep.
See it over in your mind. Queen of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, yes?
Yep.
Okay. Ready? Kimberly,
Okay.
close your eyes.
They're closed.
Say stop.
Stop.
You got it?
Yep.
Don't total the card. Get focused on the card.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly, the card.
Is it the Queen of Spades?
Dang. You guys are good. That's real good. That's real good. We need to. Where were you when the Powerball was $1 billion?
That's right.
We're gonna have to figure it out. Look, we don't have much time left. I want to thank everyone for coming on to the show, and thank you for telling us about what it's like to engage in side hustle culture. I want to thank my guests, Kimberly and Jeff Bornstein, Micah Puncochar, and Lara Parker. Thanks to you all for being with us today. It was really awesome, y'all.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And we thank you and everyone else for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of WPLN News and Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Elizabeth Burton. Our senior producer is Steve Harouche. Michaela Elias is our technical director. The masterminds behind our theme music are Laurent and Namir Blade. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get your podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. And be good to each other.